we go. Now let's disassemble it. Real simple disassembly. I think it's even easier than the Mossberg 500 because you could skip a few steps for field stripping because the Mossberg, you have to take the barrel off. So on this one, the first step, of course, you got to clear it. So it's definitely clear, and what I'm going to do is, there's a pin. There's two different heads on it. It's got the large head on the left side and the small head on the right side. You're going to push the small head through, and I know this one's a little tight, so I got my hammer. So I'm going to push that through, and you can see, looking at the pin, that it's got a little notch there, and there's a spring that holds it in that way. It's tapered so you can get it in, and then it's got the fat head so you can only insert it from one side and you can't over insert. So with that pin out, you can take and lift. Okay, let's put that forward. Make sure my safety's on. You should be able to take and lift the there we go. Take and lift the trigger group out. You'll notice that the shell latch, that's the right-hand side shell latch, comes out when you do that. So now that I've got the action exposed, you'll see down inside of there, there's a couple of little parts. This is the shell carrier, or the carrier. We'll just call it the bolt carrier, I guess. Now, you want to line that up to about there, and you'll see there's cutout notches where it'll come right out. And what I usually do is when I get it to that point, I just turn it over and it falls out. Yeah, so now there's the lifter here, and then there's the bolt. You want to push the bolt all the way forward and put the slide all the way back and push the bolt all the way forward. Then you can lift up on that lifter, and with my magic screwdriver here, I will pry. Darn it, it's hard to do for the camera. I'm going to pry and lift that, both wings on that out, and it engages in little holes in the side of the receiver. So the lifter's out. The bolt has to be forward and the slide has to be back for you to do that. Now, push the slide forward, pull the bolt all the way to the rear, and then just lift it out. Very simple. Putting it back in is also very simple. I've seen another video on YouTube with somebody doing this, and they seem to be fumbling with it. The reason they're fumbling with it is because of they did just what I did there. There's a ejector in here, and the ejector, the spring-loaded ejector, likes to get in the way of the bolt. I'm sorry, I'm trying to demonstrate for you here, and I got it caught just like he does in his video. As long as you don't play with it too much, all you have to do is pull it all the way to the rear, and it should lift right up and out. There's a slot on the side, this slot here, that corresponds with that ejector, and that's, of course, what'll happen is you've got the cartridge in here, and the ejector will come right along that slot, and when it's back far enough, it'll strike the cartridge and send it out. Yeah. So that's what that's for. You just have to make sure you line up that raceway when you put it back together. So that is field stripped. That is as much as you normally need to do. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to take this screw off here. You have to take it all the way out. Okay. Okay, with that out, this will slide off the front end. And then, with that out, you want to turn the magazine. You can see it moving. You want to unscrew the magazine itself. And when you do that, the whole thing comes out. So here's your magazine spring, Here's your shell follower. It's a very robust, solid steel shell follower. And you'll notice that this is captive. This doesn't go anywhere. It's spring loaded, so it kind of bounces at the end. There's a little spring in there, so that kind of softens and locks up the action when you get it all the way forward. There's 4 holes and 2 screw locations. I'm missing a screw, but that's okay. And then there's the plug here. The reason that's okay is because that's all covered with the barrel clamp, and no matter how many screws, as long as you've got 1 screw in there, is one of the 4 locations, you're good. There's only 2 screw locations in the cap though, so the most you can ever have is 2. The other 2 are for alignment, so no matter where you tighten it, there's always the ability to get at 2 screws. That's pretty much it. Fairly robust lug on the action bar. It's kind of relieved in here to make it a little bit lighter, and that's it. If you want to take the handguard, if you want to take the handguard off, you can get a tool that'll take that off. I don't have the tool, so I just leave it on, and you can, when you get it all the way back, it exposes everything, and you can get a rag and wipe it down with some oil, and you're good. Same thing in the back here. It's fairly well exposed. Okay, so there's a slide. The bolt is one solid piece, unlike the Mossberg or Remington where it's got a separate locking lug. It's a one solid piece, and this tail here fits into a recess in the receiver right down in here, and that's where it locks. It cams up into that locking position on the carrier. What will happen is, as the carrier goes forward, it lifts. As the carrier goes forward, it lifts the tail of that bolt up and into the locking recess. So as long as you got the carrier forward, there's no way for that locking lug to go down. When it fires, you pull the slide back, and it pulls the tail back down, and then it pulls the cartridge out. I already showed you where the ejector was. It's got 2 extractors. This one is rounded, it's supposed to be, and this one is a claw, and this one is more of a guide than anything else, because if you pull on the cartridge, it'll go right past the left-hand shell extractor, and that's on purpose, because when it extracts, it needs to hit that and flip out. It gives you a little more positive control. This is a solid piece of steel. I mean, they really built it fairly robust. Everything on it seems like it's really well built. Same with the Remington Model 31. It's a Browning design originally, so they they built it fairly well. The shell latch here, very similar to the Mossberg. Again, all of these are similar because they're all basically copies of the Remington Model 31, which itself is a copy of the Remington Model 17, and that was designed by John Browning. Same thing with the lifter, almost identical to the Mossberg 500. Definitely the real similar concept. The trigger group, very simple. It's got a little tail there. Right here is the slide stop. It comes out of the way when the gun fires, and I'll demonstrate when the gun fires and the hammer goes down. That popped out of the way, and you'll see when I cock it, it just pops back up, and that'll engage in the little tail there, and it keeps the slide from going back. There's no the firing pressure on the gun doesn't actually push the slide back into the slide stop. What it's doing is it's pushing against the tail in the locking lug here. So that's how the gun works. You don't usually want to take the magazine out unless you're having issues with it. Just lube it up from the outside and you should be fine.